Hey guys, what's up? This is Robbie. Before I begin, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, I'm making this video kind of just off the cuff, but it's about some of the things that I've been reading online lately. Not just reading, but also seeing in videos that are reviewing the new Star Wars movie. What is getting me, and it's a bit irritating, is their attempt to discredit, their being the critics and kind of like media personalities. They're trying to discredit people who did not like the movie, which first off saying, I want to say that if you love the movie, that's perfectly fine. If you hated the movie, that's perfectly fine. I tend to fall on the side that's more towards, I think the movie's terrible, like I said in the early video. Now, the issue is not that people love or hate this movie. The issue is that it seems as if we're not allowed to dislike the movie without there being some deeper conspiracy. Now, I've been hearing people say that people are going online and creating duplicate accounts just to say they didn't like the movie. I've been hearing things saying that, well, they've been polling the audiences, and someone like Cinema Scores is saying that, well, it's generally a positive feedback. So I just want to address that and say that I don't think that just because you poll the audience that you're getting a great reaction. And I know that Cinema Scores is kind of renowned because they are very, well, they're considered very accurate. But I think in more polarizing circumstances, you have to deal with people willing to talk to the media or willing to talk to pollsters and people not willing to talk to pollsters. I think you can take the general election, the last general election, as an example, where it can seem like one person or one idea is doing better than the other idea. But in actuality, when people are very emotional about certain things, they're not likely to either speak to pollsters or to, have their ideas or opinions fully formed. Sometimes people are just trying to get away from them, say, oh, yeah, it was great, it was great. But I think if you go on IMDb and you go on Rotten Tomatoes, which I've heard people try to discredit by saying that they're creating multiple accounts on Rotten Tomatoes, I think that they're really undercutting the point that fans are trying to make. And I think it is a lot more fans than they realize. So I'm not going to do what they do and try to put a number or a percentage on how many fans dislike this movie. But I can say that it is a lot of fans. I've seen more and more videos. I mean, if you just type in videos, if you just type in Last Jedi sucks or Last Jedi was a terrible movie, you will find literally hundreds of videos. Like there was a Canadian show I was watching the other day, and the guy went on a 5-minute rant about how terrible this movie was, and his criticisms were legitimate, down to choices with characters and things like that. So I think to try to delegitimize people's opinions and their thoughts and feelings, it seems, I mean, I'm not saying that these people are bought out because I don't want to do the reverse thing that they're doing and create a conspiracy as well. But I think that if you really like something and you're a critic and you really like it, then you should be forced to defend it based on merit. And so when people bring up actual issues with the movie, like not liking the way they use the Force or certain people having the Force that never had it, then it's your responsibility to rebut their opinions, to rebut the things they pointed out, not to say that it's invalid because they're not real. Because things you're trying to act like these people are make-believe, and they're not. So I think just going forward, I think people need to just continue to get their voices heard, because if you're unhappy with the movie, then they need to know that going forward, and there has to be a loud enough voice of the people so they can't say, oh, it's just a minority, it's just a loud minority. When you have people who are literally walking out of the theater early, and people who are, like, I went on, and I know this isn't I'm not using this to promote a percentage or to say that this is indicative of this, but I will say that the proof of the dissent in Star Wars opinions, as far as like whether it was a good movie, the proof that people are descending from that and thinking that this was not a good movie, is in the comments. You go on YouTube, and the comments for reviews about Star Wars The Last Jedi are remarkably negative. If you go on Yahoo, I for every 10 negative comments, I saw one positive comment. If you go on Facebook, they had Fandango, which, you know what I mean? They just promote going to see movies, and people are on Fandango using the angry icon. And if you read the comments, 90% of them are angry. And so I'm like, is everyone creating multiple Facebook accounts? Are they creating multiple YouTube accounts? Are they creating multiple Yahoo accounts just to say this movie's bad? Or is it indicative of the fact that people are unhappy with this movie? You can make certain people happy, obviously, because Rian Johnson is a great director. But I think he made a Rian Johnson film and not a Star Wars film. You see what I'm saying? And I think that certain moviegoers are in it for the movie experience, and other people want a legitimate Star Wars movie. And I think that the people who want a legitimate Star Wars movie, that is a massive amount of people. Also, you have to think about sales after the movie comes out. Like, who do you want to sell to? Who's going to buy the movie? Is it going to be the casual moviegoer who's just down to see a sci-fi action film? Or is it going to be a real hardcore Star Wars fan? And I think they do a disservice. And this is a problem with Disney. Disney is worried about larger market. They're not worried about being loyal to the fans of Star Wars. They're worried about the bottom dollar. And I'm not trying to come at Disney because I don't really have a beef with Disney, because I think that the real issue is Rian Johnson. But I do think that the massive power of Disney and their ability to market and things like that is why more people aren't coming out and saying that this movie is not very good. I mean, from the fact that the movie kind of flubs gravity, like there are just different scenes. And this guy pointed it out on the Canadian talk show. He was like, how is it that certain characters can get sucked out into outer space, but other characters are able to just like lay there next to a door and not get sucked out into outer space? It's like, you don't even, we suspend belief about gravity and stuff like that. We suspend disbelief about, you know, science and things like that. But when you are contradictory in even how you present the movie science, it makes it hard to watch the movie. When you just make up your own ways the Force works, like, it doesn't bother me that much, but you have to be consistent and you have to kind of root it into some deeper or larger explanation as to why the Force works like that. You can't just do a Deus Ex Machina and then make the movie work however you want by using the Force. Like Han Solo said, that's not how the Force works. So just to sum it up, I would like to say that, like, everyone's opinions matter and they're all legitimate. I think that it is terrible what they're trying to do to discredit the average film goer. And I think it's terrible what they're trying to do to discredit the average Star Wars fan, because I think that this movie is not pleasing fans. And I think that even the average film goer is not enjoying this movie. I think the people who are enjoying this movie tend to, just off the cuff, tend to be more highbrow. You know what? There's another thing I want to address before I finish this video. I was watching another video and they were talking about you build up your own expectations by speculating about Snoke, by speculating about Rey, by speculating about Luke Skywalker. And I want to say that that is ridiculous, because they built that up for us. And by they, I do mean The Force Awakens, but more so, all these people being critical of fans really were playing into that as well with their internet videos. They were like, who do you think Snoke is? Who do you think Rey's parents are? So for them to say that fans have no right to do that, but they were profiting off of that by getting fan views on their videos, is entirely hypocritical, because everybody was playing off of it and they were using it for YouTube views, which it really upset me, because it's like, you were playing into it. You're a Star Wars fan. You were playing into it. And now you're acting like, oh, well, you built up your own expectations, so you let your own self down. It's not Rian Johnson's job to please you. And I'm like, no, it kind of is. He's supposed to make a movie that's fun. This isn't just, you know, certain people will always hate Star Wars. That's dismissive. What are they saying? Do they really dislike it for a reason, a purpose? Does it make no sense? Then yes. you need to listen to them and stop dismissing them by being like, certain people never like the movie. And then what's the other criticism? Certain people get their expectations too high. It's like, well, what are their high expectations and what did you achieve? If you didn't achieve that much, then I don't even think you met regular expectations. So I just want to say that we kind of dismiss people rather than addressing the argument. And I think the reason why we don't do that is because they have a weak argument. They have a weak argument to support this movie. And that's the people, like, if you want to support something, you support it by listing the things that are good with the movie. You do not support it by listing arguments to try to get rid of the population of people that don't like it. They don't exist. They'll never be happy. These are logical fallacies. Because it's proof that you have a weak argument if you can't actually argue the topic. If you have to argue all around the topic, you have a weak argument. Meanwhile, the people who are complaining about the movie are just complaining about the movie because they have a strong argument and they can rest their hat on the fact that this movie is not very good. So that's all to say. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Rob Robbie. Tune in next time. All right, guys? Peace.